Call the October already, October 1st, Park Board meeting to order. First thing on our agenda are the minutes from the last meeting. Are there any changes, corrections, or omissions that anyone caught?
Move to approve.
One second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Do we want to follow the order we have? Okay.
Well, for sure, the presentation.
We're holding up, okay. First item then we have is the hot air affair and the presentation they're going to make that was in your packet about the sculpture to go down into the park. The proposal for it to go into the park.
Hi, I'm Michelle Webb. I live at 985 Sherman Lane, Hudson, Wisconsin. I am here on behalf of the Hudson Hot Air Fair. So we would like to show you guys an art sculpture that we'd like to propose bringing to Hudson. We're calling this Operation Uplift. And as you could see from the previous video running, that was in a very windy day, the balloons spinning. You could see how well they held up. The artists that created this, their names are Alan and Nicole Milligan. They installed this colorful piece into downtown St. Paul at the Landmark Plaza this summer of 2019. It was no longer, the piece was meant to be temporary down there, and so this was a great opportunity that the Hudson Hot Air Fair did not want to pass up because of the showcasing of the hot air balloons, and it represents a key community event. The city of St. Paul will be utilizing their space that Uplift was located in for their winter ice skating rink, so that is one of the reasons it did have to be removed. The information about it is a 22-foot long double pergola. It's 14 feet high with 9 feet wide. Uplift was made to code for the public art, which requirements meet permanent structural guidelines and past inspection. It is made of cedar decking materials and includes more wood cross braces than the code required. It's stunningly painted poinsettia red. There are solar lights that highlight the kite fabric of the balloons that hang from the infrastructure. No power is needed for those lights. Upon our research, we found that Uplift has been a great photo op between Shutterfly, Facebook, Snapchat, sorry, not Shutterfly, Instagram. It's a very demanding location for where it was presented prior. A lot of people went down there for dinners and stuff, and then they'd take walks throughout that area and spend time underneath the spinning balloons all summer long. What we are looking for is to temporarily install Uplift public art project in Lakefront Park in Hudson. If approved, it would be our desire that it could be raised up around November 1st and would be viewable through April 30th, 2020. We did have a couple proposed locations. You'll find that right in front of you on the larger sheet and outside your pamphlet. It's in there also. These are just a couple suggested sites. We did superimpose the structure into there just so you can kind of get a better visualization of it. The art piece is also attached to concrete pillars, which would allow us for more flexibility if it were to be an uneven ground. The pillars are about 3 feet tall, two and a half feet tall that the posts were adhered to. So if it was a little unlevel, we could dig down some in some areas. Upkeep on Uplift. The balloon repairs will be completed by the Hudson Hot Air Fair. The Hudson Hot Air Fair would assist with the city to the labor to the structure. No costs or regular maintenance would be required by the city. It is our intention also to gain further support from the community. This art piece by gaining monetary donations of the affordable price of $25 for underwriting. This price makes it reasonable for an everyday person or a business to bring the love of art to Hudson. At this time, we've had at least 10 sponsorships already spoken for. The underwriters would be added to a plaque that we would display on one of the columns of Uplift. All costs for balloons would be for hot airfare if any of them were to come off. This is just some pictures of us taking down Uplift. What we had done prior is we've just reached out to the community and local businesses and just kind of got some insight from them. And about the 35 people asked to sign a little proposal that to bring Uplift to Hudson, only one did not sign. So we have some very good support out in the community for this. But we'd really like to bring Uplift to Hudson. Do you guys have any questions for me at this time?
I think it's a great proposal you put together. The visuals are awesome, and I actually saw it in St. Paul, so that's my connection to it. So I like the concept. I guess I'm not sure if we have any precedent of bringing in a temporary, whether it be art structure or anything
We
like that.
haven't, we've done that with the FIPS and with other projects over the years to do it.
I'm sorry, Pat.
No, go right ahead.
Need footings for that, to put it, to stick in the, secure it into the ground? Or
Is it just placed on top of a pad of dirt or concrete, or is it anchored somehow?
So out in St. Paul, it was just placed right on the brick that they had there. It didn't have to be anchored. Those cement pillars are enough weight to hold it down, and there's also a metal rod that goes up through the cement pillar into the wooden structure too. So it's a very, very sturdy, heavy piece. This was a very windy day, and it wasn't going anywhere.
In looking at your suggested locations, my eye, Site A made a great deal of sense because it's in a very public space. There's a lot of streetlights, so having to worry about the trolls or the mutants coming and destroying the hanging lights at night is reduced. Where there are some of the other locations, it's not going to get the sighting, and you wouldn't know it until after it was wrecked.
Was it pretty much left alone in St. Paul? They did
Yeah.
previously, though?
Yeah.
It was not touched in St. Paul. There's no vandalism or anything on it. A couple balloons had come off, but they feel it was probably from the wind. And the artist has gave us some more tips and suggestions on a better way to secure those balloons too.
Now, I know last meeting we talked a little bit about the holiday, the lighting group and stuff like that. I don't know if, it sounds like the timing will overlap a little bit there. I don't know if we have to take that into a consideration of, if we A, agree to place this, and B, if the placement.
That's a good question, but there's a great deal of overlap between the chamber and the hot air fair that I'm sure, I'm making a guess here, that they've been aware of this and would have voiced something along the way if they thought that wasn't. Am I?
Yeah, we've been in communications
Yeah,
with the
so-
chamber about the
Okay.
piece and
That's a
everything.
good question, though, yeah.
Is there a way they could incorporate or do some decorating on this to align with what they had proposed to us with the holiday decorations? Could they put holiday lights on this, or was that?
I'll let Evie answer that one.
Thank you.
I've been Evie Urban from Hot Air Fair.
Come up to the podium, please, Abby. Thank you.
Evie Urban from Hot Air Fair Committee. We've been in conversations with Mary Claire, but the entire group had not met by the time we were putting this proposal together. And it happened very quickly because we had been in contact with the artists in St. Paul but no decisions were made, and then they were told they had to get it moved because the city needed to work on the ice skating rink. So we just went up and took it and brought it back. Mary Claire said that her group would be meeting. The structure is painted poinsettia red, so we think there's
Yeah, should,
something going on there. We have a copyright agreement with the artists, and so to make changes to the art part of it, we would need to have approval. But we've talked to her about that, and if it's done in a way that is not detrimental to the integrity of the art piece, then they have no objection to doing that. So that was one of our first thoughts, that it was a nice combination, but we have not spoken with the entire group as to what their thoughts are going to be. The last I had heard, the bulk of their plan was centered around the band shell.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
so how it comes
it should be
together.
additive then, rather
Yeah.
than competing with it, it sounds like.
Yeah, I
Sure,
think,
I'll entertain a motion then.
I think it's a nice, I think it'd be a nice addition. I think, I agree with you that location A, to me, makes the most sense because it's closer to the street. I think it's more visible. I think it would draw people into Lakefront Park. One of the things I'm thinking is it's winter, so that's a little different for the majority of the time. So I don't know, Michael, in terms of like, would we need to like remove snow or shovelers? I don't know how that would work with in the
Yeah,
winter
I
time.
mean, are you expecting the city to maintain the snow around the structure then throughout the winter months, or?
No.
Okay.
I think a lot of it just what being able, some of the proposed locations are pretty close to walkways.
Yeah.
That would probably most likely already be cleared off. And then you can still view the structure walking around it.
Yeah, I mean, just to point out Mike's comment, I just don't want to set the city up, create a precedent for art in the parks, and apparently we've had art in the parks before, where we just have other groups that want, if we allow this, other groups coming to the city, can I put my art? And, do we create a policy? How do we do it? Does it have to be affiliated with a community group or event? Because I don't want to put the city in a position where we're denying people,
Absolutely.
their art in our parks if we allow it. I just don't want to put the city in that position in the future. That's all I'm concerned about.
Yeah, that's a
So,
valid, in today's world, that's a valid
Yeah.
concern. It is.
I think it'd be a fun problem to have, though,
Yeah.
because you could have some really interesting art coming to Hudson, and if it's not like costing us anything, right? What a great problem to have, to look at different art and maybe get the FIPS involved or something to figure out. Could almost be like some kind of a juried thing in the future, but I think it's a good place to start. I really like the idea of the hot air balloons that directly correlate to one of our big celebrations. So I think for Hudson, it makes sense to have, it just fits us well, I think, so.
Sounds like a motion to me.
What's coming?
Okay.
I would make a motion to accept the Operation Uplift with the dates listed and location A in Lakefront Park.
You want any staff recommendations tacked on to that of some kind?
I'd like to develop an MOU between the city of Hudson and the Hot Air Fair, spelling out our responsibilities, their responsibilities moving forward.
Yeah, I would totally accept that. Yep.
And it's seconded?
I'm going to recuse myself because I volunteer with the organization.
Sure, that makes sense. Any further comments or any discussion? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Against? Motion carried. Yeah, good luck with it. Yeah. The next
So,
item we have
Just
are...
like that, just a point of order, I'll develop the MOU for your review, and then we'll sign it, and then I think ultimately this will be brought to city council for final approval. The 7th, when are you looking to put it up, November 1st? If we can put it on maybe the second council meeting in October, that way it'd give me a week or so to put together the MOU, for you to review, edit, so on and so forth, then we'll put it on the second council meeting, if that's okay? Okay, all right, yep. Good, fair enough.
Good. Next item we have are the improvements to go out at Grandview Park on the fields out there.
So this is just a Field improvements, looking for park board to authorize the use of the concession stand money that have been collected over the past couple of years to do some infield improvements on Field 4 and Field 1. Total cost to the city, $2,784. We currently have $1,534.14 in the fund. The remaining balance would come out of operating. So just looking for approval to use those monies to, basically what's happening over the years as the fields are drug, all this, lime kind of gets pushed on the outer side. We're just looking to cut the edge, bring in some more material, shape it so it's not puddled. So it's due.
So is that what those funds are kind of earmarked for, is
Field
keep on,
improvements. Yeah.
I would move to approve.
a second?
Any further discussion? Chair will call the question. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Motion carried. Next item up, we have the boat launch.
So, bringing this to the park board tonight for discussion and recommendations. In the Lakefront Vision Study, there was some discussion on expanding and raising the boat launch. And as all of you are aware, over the past 2-3 years, with just the weather that we've been having, the boat launch has been closed more than it has been opened, unfortunately. And so we're not able as a community and visitors coming into our town to utilize such a valuable resource that we have here. And so what I brought for you tonight is basically for your approval and your thoughts on two things: raising the boat launch to a 684 height, okay? Because right now what we do is we have to close it down at 681. So there's 3 feet, and in fact, the no wake zone, the no wake goes into effect at 684 out on the St. Croix River. So to try and coincide with that, that's when we would close it down. So A, raise it, and then B would be the possibility of expanding the parking lot to the north, maybe doubling in size, not going past the volleyball courts, but incorporating some more parking space because, let's face it, during the summer months, it's a utilized area, and I think it would be beneficial for the city of Hudson residents, visitors, create some more revenue for the parks to go back in Lakefront Park, so on and so forth. So looking to entertain your thoughts on that, and then ultimately looking for approval on going out for an RFP. What we would do as a staff, we would develop a request for a proposal for concept drawings, design, cost estimates, which we could then use to apply to the DNR for some recreational boating grant funds, sports fisherman funds, and then supplement any balances with some TIF monies as well. So that's kind of what I'm bringing to the board tonight and for your discussion. And I know, Pat, you've kind of been involved with some of the happenings down there
Well, to
throughout
kind
the
of
years.
put that 684 number in context, that's the height of the seawall. Yeah, as it currently is in the other part of the park, so it would bring it up to that height going down through there. And you can, historically, if you are standing at the by the arch and you're looking south, you can see where the original wall was, and then several years later, as we kept getting so much erosion and washout, we put the second wall back of that to hold more of those soils and keep that from washing out. And like you said, during the overlay that they did for the whole lakefront, that was one of the areas they talked about, that it really would be an improvement. And then it comes into the economies of scale if they're going to be doing that much work there to make the current number of parking spots half again as big, or whatever that number is, would be something I think we should look at the same time. And I think one of the things that area in there, right now you've got the volleyball courts and then nothing to where the current parking is. So it's not like we're taking property out of current use. I mean, it's not like we're wiping out a picnic area or something like that. We're expanding our parking to make sense. That's my 2 cents worth.
How far
On
did
it?
they used to park back in the day, how far did they used to park up in there?
Well, where the almost where the parking is today was where the Little League field used to be, and home plate was back towards the corner of Buckeye and First Street there. And then down about not quite halfway down to the, between Buckeye and the end of Walnut there, about halfway, the street ran across what's now the front of the parking lot, where the boathouse used to be, and swung up. And so between it and the railroad tracks, they had
So about
parking in
halfway,
there.
halfway up
About
to
halfway.
Walnut. Halfway up to Walnut,
Yep.
yeah. But it was just a grass.
It was just a gravel area that,
Trailer right up on there.
yeah.
Yeah.
And as time went on, and when they redid the park, and the band shell was moved and the bathhouse was moved, it seemed that I wasn't on the park board then, but it seemed that they really were focused on trying to keep it a city boat launch, that Kings had their boat launch south of town, and this was for Hudson and Hudson residents, and then the state said, nope, you can't do that. So then they said, okay, half of it is for Hudson people and half of it is for non-residents. And it existed that way for a long time, and the state says you can't do that. And the state also said we can't charge any more than what the state charges at their facilities.
Yeah.
But I think we could get money from the state to do improvements.
That's the intent
Down
here,
there.
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, there's multiple grants out there for invasive species that we can tie into to have like a boat washing station. Like I said, the sportsman, there's grants through that, and then the recreational boating fund that we would go after. I'm actually meeting with the DNR regional rep for the grant process on Thursday to kind of discuss the project, if it's approved tonight, and kind of just get the thoughts of her and kind of what we would need as a, from a company that we would hire that would do all these, design, cost estimates, so on and so forth, so that it would be almost not shovel ready, but it would be close to it, so when we apply for the grants, that the DNR knows that we're serious about pursuing this.
So are there any city, or any spots that are designated for city residents in that lot at this point?
No, we can't.
No,
We can't have any?
No,
Okay.
no. And we can't sell a resident pass any longer either, can we?
we do in-state,
Can
out-of-state.
we? Oh, we still can. Okay, I'm sorry for my ignorance there.
When you open it up to season passes,
Yeah.
that's when you get.
But anybody can get a season pass, we just can't have a resident pass.
And I will get a lot of phone calls from residents about the parking lot being full and this,
Sure.
and I try to explain to them that, state of Wisconsin basically mandates that we can't strictly identify just city of Hudson parking only in that ramp.
How about if it's, is there a way to have permit parking?
We have, we do have permit parking as it exists today, yeah. We have resident, non-resident permit parking. Or permits to park in the parking lot, but there's no.
But there's no assigned
designated-
spaces for
there's no
just
assigned-
permit
right,
holders.
correct.
Yeah. They used to hold booster days at Picnic Point and on the Little League field, and then on the parking lot after the park was redone. But it kept flooding out, and so it got moved to the parking lot where it is now in utilization of the bathhouse to do it over there. And for that very reason, it kept getting flooded out.
So my thought is, bear with me, I'm going to throw this out there. We have that little park on the other side of the restrooms
Picnic Point?
by the river, right? And then part of me is thinking, what if we juggled those play structures to the green space we currently have, between the parking lot and the volleyball courts? And we thought about that little park as the extra parking area for the boat launch. And the reason I'm saying it is just, I hate to give up more green space in lakefront. And I think that little park is hard to find. Like, I think a lot of people, unless you're local, it's hard to find that area unless you get over there, where it would be more visible for families. So I'm just wondering if that would be, like, your thoughts, or if we could juggle that at all, or if that would be an advantage or disadvantage. I'm not sure, so.
Well, then you got kids going across the boat lodge parking lot to go over to the bathrooms and the like, but the intent with Picnic Point was to make it a safe place for, you know, families and kids, with kids, to go down to the lakefront, to be down by the attraction of the boats and everything else, to have restrooms that service not only the boat launch, but the people who came down. And the city used to have some big stone barbecue places down in there, besides the picnic tables and the like. But I think in the whole overall plan of things, I think
Yeah, I just don't know
Or the
if you
boat
get,
launch.
if you get the parking spots you're looking for down there. And my thought is, in the design is, currently as you come into the boat launch parking area next to Buckeye Garage, that would be one way in. Okay? You'd come in, launch your boat, you have parking spaces, and you'd exit out onto First Street,
Oh, I see, like a one-way deal.
like a one-way deal instead of having this.
Yeah,
And then that way, in the future, if we want to put some sort of arm associated with the pay station to get rid of an attendant, we are able to do that. And then there's enough room. So that's another thing to consider too, in the future.
and would you only park in there if you were launching a boat, or could the parking lot be used for other purposes throughout the year or something?
So during the boating months, it's restricted to boat parking only. However, in our recent downtown parking conversations we're looking at possibly opening that lot up during the winter months if
Right.
need be.
So I'm thinking it'd be great if you could open it up for
Right.
people shopping downtown or eating or
Right.
whatever, so,
Yep.
okay.
I
Okay,
think the bigger problem is keeping commuter parkers from tying up spaces all day.
I'm sorry, I missed that.
Bigger problem is commuter parking.
Oh.
Of people parking their car there all day.
Okay,
And so now with the pay stations and everything else that would, going in down there, would give them the
Real
ability to
time.
control it as well.
The parking lot currently has 40 parking stalls, which doesn't seem like 40 parking stalls are in there, But, I just look at it from the standpoint of just usability. I mean,
Right.
it's a shame that we have to close it down, and how many phone calls we get every day that thing's closed down, and it's just unfortunate because the river's still usable at 681, 682. It's not like it's flowing super fast at that point, and to have our boat landing shut down and residents not be able to use it and residents not be able to come into town and so on and so forth, it's just, it's, and I don't know if this weather cycle is going to continue, but it just seems like over the last few years, it's crazy how much we have it closed. I mean, this summer, we probably only had it open for, 5-6 weeks,
yep.
So
So tonight, you're just looking for go-ahead to put out an RFP for it?
Yeah.
Well, I would motion to approve going out for the RFP.
Please.
Hi, my name is Marion Weber, and I live at 604 Grandview Drive. And I hear you're doing a lot of planning and some logistics talking here before something's even been decided. And I don't think I speak for myself when I say that I don't think putting more parking and taking up any of that park space down there for parking is the optimal use for the park. I would totally object to, I think that there's some validity in raising the level because it is always flooded. And the fact that it is always flooded might speak to the wiseness of putting in a parking lot that's going to be flooded a good deal of the time. I think we're already doing things that take away the park space, the existing park space there. I was part of the committee that worked on that plan and advised on that plan. I don't remember a discussion or seeing anything on the plan, I do have the plan, that says anything about a parking space being expanded for boaters. I think I respect the boaters' desire to have more parking. I respect the frustration of the river being too high to be able to use that boat launch most of the summer. I don't, and I object to any more of the parkland being used for anything except a park, not parking. I won't go into some of my theories or ideas about, I'm wanting to speak to Hudson's obsession about parking spaces. It seems like parking spaces are the only thing we talk about in Hudson with any strength or any value, and that and putting apartment buildings in residential areas that aren't normally zoned
Please
for
state
parking.
the topic.
But I would like to have the, well, those are going in the parking area, the park areas too. I would object to the parking lot being put in any part of that park that doesn't always already contain a parking lot. And I would object to this whole process here. I don't support it, and I don't think I'm alone. So, thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments that anyone has? If not, a motion has been made to let city staff spend the time and the direction to put together an RFP, to study it and look at it.
Just to put out on RFP, to invite other people, right?
Yeah.
And I think as part of that, the RFP just gives you ideas and resources. It doesn't mean you have to go with the
Right.
proposals. It just gives you
And-
things to look at in terms of parking, in terms of green space.
In the RFP, we can designate 3 different projects.
Yep.
Existing footprint, expanding a quarter of the parking lot, so on and so forth.
Right.
So that we have options to go for.
Yeah. So I think that helps us in the long run, yeah.
It looks at what all options are and what the costs are. Everybody understands the motion? All those in favor say aye.
Second?
Yeah, Mike seconded.
Dan,
Oh, Dan, I'm sorry.
Oh, and Pam's abstaining. Motion carried.
or I mean Mike. I call him.
I'm going to go aye. I didn't get a chance of what, it went too fast. But what I would say is I understand the concern and I'm hesitant to cough up additional green space. But, so I think there's ways to work with that, try to be creative and figure out what, you know what I mean? I just think we got to look at what the voters need, but I think that is a great kind of landmark of Hudson, so I understand the hesitation to
Yeah.
want to cut into that
I
green
mean,
space.
the other thing
which-
too to consider is, River City Center now has a walkway behind it, and it kind of comes across, not directly across from the new boat launch parking, but towards the north a little bit. To have an official crosswalk there, to continue a trail through the park, expanding the trail, we could incorporate into this project. I mean,
Yeah.
like Pat said, I mean, that land there between the volleyball courts and the existing boat launch, I mean, it's used more for dog.
Yeah.
That's weeds right now, yeah.
So anyways, but we'll get options, and we'll decide from there, right?
That sounds good, yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda was Paul Anderson's request about Anderson Park.
Yes, is Paul here tonight?
See him? Pona?
I called
Nope.
him, he knew about it. But there's plenty other people. There he is.
There he is.
That's not Paul.
Not sure, they just throw it right on his lap as soon as he came in the door. Hey, Pona. You just came up on the agenda, Paul.
That's not Paul.
Oh, that's Paul, excuse me, Hugh.
That's Huey.
I'm sorry, I thought you were Paul at first. I know, the old eyes here. Yep.
I don't have my glasses on.
Yeah, so, you want to go into discussion on it, or just?
He approached the city to come and discuss a proposal to possibly help add some pickleball courts to Anderson Park, and we put him on the park board and told him to be here, and he's not here, so I think we just maybe strike it from the agenda until he officially shows up.
Okay. Next item we have
They
is
know something more.
your operating budget.
Yes. Parks operating budget. So there's a narrative in your packet. So basically, at the bottom is a summary. I don't know how in-depth you want to get, but overall, the park operating budget, based upon my recommendations, decreased $3,000 or 1%. We basically kept everything the same as 2019. A couple, $500 here, $500 there, $1,000 here. We kind of combined 2 line items. In the Grandview budget, we increased contractual services, $500 to continue application of 3 weed and feed turf treatments for the 5 playing fields. So I mean, there's really nothing that's changed from 2019. And we're able to operate, I feel, at a pretty decent level. We're able to buy the necessary wood chips, janitorial supplies to operate the park, so on and so forth. So, you know, if you have no questions on the narrative, I would just entertain a motion to approve the parks budget.
So Mike, just one clarification. So, you know, it says Lakefront Grandview, but it doesn't list the other parks. Is that just under the general parks budget?
General parks.
Okay,
Yep.
so there's nothing that we need in
Yep,
any of the
and
other
Deb, maybe
locations?
you can explain why they're separate. So there's general parks maintenance.
Okay.
Lakefront Park, and then there's Grandview Park.
Oh,
So there's 3 separate budgets.
So everything
so all
but
the other
those two-
smaller parks come out of the
Smaller.
general parks budget?
Yep.
Okay, just to clarify, okay.
Move to approve.
I would second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Motion carried. Holiday lighting in Lakefront Park.
Right. So after last month's meeting, staff developed an MOU with the Chamber of Commerce for the holiday lighting display. They had a chance to look at it and make comments to it. Before the meeting, Deb had handed out this draft copy here. There's some minor changes that were made from the one that was in your packet, basically cleaning up some editing errors, language, so on and so forth. But I think for what I want the board to look at it is look at now, therefore, the parties agree to the following, right at the bottom of the agreement, okay? Chamber is fully responsible for setup, tear down, and storage of all the materials associated with the lighting display. Chamber holiday lighting display in Lakefront Park shall be open to the public during the park hours and specified times agreed upon by the city. Chamber shall be responsible for regular checking the lighting displays and shall make all necessary repairs. And I won't go through all these. So basically, you know, the intent of this agreement is to put all the responsibility on the Chamber of Commerce to, you know, set up, tear down, maintain, store it. The city will be responsible for regularly maintaining the walkways for snow removal and ice control. And then also in here, the city shall pay for all electrical expenses associated with the event. So that's the one that open for discussion, in my opinion, how we would want to, if we want to try and meter it and pass those expenses along, or the city incur those expenses. I mean, that's open for discussion. I know Deb had reached out to a couple other communities, Chippewa Falls, La Crosse, Red Wing, and yeah, every community does it differently, right? So it's just a matter of how we want to set up, and seeing that it's going to be very small this year.
Right.
All the lights are going to be LED. I mean, we're not talking
Okay.
a lot of money to support light, you know, the electrical expenses for this year. If they start lighting up the whole park, I mean, we might have had a different conversation. Right? But for now, I mean, that's my recommendation anyways.
Okay.
Just to help them get off the
Yeah, I agree.
ground.
So the maintenance that you talked about on the sidewalks and the snow removal, is that something that is done normally anyways in that park during the winter?
So we typically do the trail that goes along the riverfront there, and then there will be, we don't typically do it like up to the band shell. You know what I'm talking about? There's like a walkway there. So there will be some minor additional, but nothing that's going to take us, you know, 2 or 3 additional hours. I'm comfortable with this.
I would motion to approve, and then, just my understanding, this gets passed on to the city attorney and common council
Yes.
for final approval, basically? Okay, yeah, I would move to approve the,
I'll second it.
Any further discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. St. Croix Sailing School.
So the annual lease for the St. Croix Sailing School to use the south end of Lakefront Park has come due. So every year, we do an annual re-upping of the lease. I have talked to the St. Croix Sailing School prior to the meeting, and instead of an annual lease, they would like to enter into a biannual, so every other year lease agreement, instead of having to come back every year. I really don't see a problem with that, in my opinion, but
Actually,
Oh.
I was thinking about that. St. Croix Rowing Club and Hudson Boosters, I believe, is a 3-year. And I think theirs expires next year, so maybe they could all be done at the same time. And then they'd all be on that same schedule. Because otherwise it's hard.
That'd be a good suggestion.
Yeah.
Yeah, then they're all renewing at the same time.
Well, if there's any future of them moving to the structure there, if we ever get that figured out, will that be within a year or two? I mean, I don't know where that would,
So St. Croix Sailing School is looking to utilize the facility for cold storage this year yet.
Yep.
I have to reach out to Kathy Munkitrick, and I think what I told them is we would set that up as a separate lease agreement.
Okay.
If the board decides to go that route. Obviously, the board would pass it, the council will pass it, so on and so forth, but, the intent is I actually reached out to, met with one of the members on the board, and basically, what we discussed at one of the previous park board meetings is we need to get a number associated with that building. What do we need to do to bring it up to all the codes, egress, restrooms, electrical, fire, asbestos, so on and so forth. So we're working on that portion right now, to get some numbers, to get some cost estimates, how much money is going to cost to get this building usable from a public standpoint, right? And once we get those numbers, then we can start talking about, long-term solutions, what's the cost share gonna be, so on and so forth. Are we gonna open up RFP for other groups to utilize it, so on and so forth. So, that's kind of where we're at with the long-term use of the building. Short-term use, we're looking at possibly doing some minor storage, but, like I said, I have to talk to Kathy first, how to go about doing that.
So this agreement is currently what we have in place
Yes.
or what we've had in place the last few years, and it's not the.
No,
Okay.
no, the building is not included in this lease. It's basically using that south portion south of the playground.
So I'll move to approve this for the annual, and then look at the biannual next year so that the agreements are all in the same time frame.
I would second.
Any further discussion? Cheryl, call the question. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. The only thought I've got is be careful on that building freezing,
Right.
because it doesn't.
Right, yeah. We've typically, every winter before this, we've had operations out of there, so
Yeah.
we've kept it heated, right?
Yeah, so don't put it through the freeze cycle.
No, we'll have to keep it heated throughout the winter months, even though we're not really utilizing it. We'll just keep it bare minimum.
Yeah.
Right. Yep.
You report on the Munch Bunch, on how it went with the goats.
So the goats were in and out, they did their job. In your packet is a map of the zones that they hit, and kind of a brief summary at the bottom there. They had it sectioned off, A through H. As you can see on the bottom, it says, our intention was to work in areas B, C, D, and H in 2019. The goats had been so affected in 2018. B, C, and H did not warrant management. So they added 4 areas, A, E, F, and G. And with some brush cutting from city staff and the goats coming behind them, they were able to knock down a lot of buckthorn in those areas. So I've actually been fairly impressed. I don't know if any of you have been able to get up there and see them in action, but I mean, they can cover some ground in a hurry. And they're pretty impressive, and I think it's a
Great.
good program, and it seems to be working well, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And so, we'll look to continue the program for next year, funding out of community subsidies, and maybe just cutting back a couple areas and just seeing what happens. Because what I was told up front is this is a 2 to 3 year process. So this is the end of year 2. Year 3, we'll see what comes back, and like I said, if it looks anywhere like it does now, I think it's something worth continuing into the future, not just in Prospect Park, but other parks as well, so.
Well, I know Rotary spent probably 4 or 5 springs up there brushing. And it would, even though they put down herbicide to try, it still would grow back like mad. Faith Community Church took care of a whole nother section for that same period. And it was the same thing. If the goats can do it, that's great.
Yeah.
Happen to be in my backyard as we speak,
Uh-huh.
the Munch Bunch, up in Red Cedar Canyon. And again, they're outperforming what they planned on. They're moving through quicker. Other than a solar panel and some electric fence that, if they move, there's no impact. I mean, there's no chemicals, there's no, I mean, it's a great program, yeah. Who would have thought you'd invent a goat to do that, huh?
We got runnable pasture land in town?
Oh, jeez, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
It used to be a summer job.
yeah. So just a quick update to the board. Like I said, if you get a chance, go up to Prospect Park and see what the goats did up there this summer.
Walnut Street Bridge.
Final thing on the agenda is just an update on the Walnut Street improvements. Bids came back for the project. One was from Harmon Concrete, the other one was from Pember. There was an alternate bid given to do the work in the springtime and what the cost savings would be, because if we were to push this project through this fall, with the schedules and them being busy, how much it would cost. So the low bid came back at about $93,000, which is what we had appropriated for that if we held off into the spring. So the council at the last meeting approved alternate bid from Pember to do the project in the spring and get it completed before May 20th, before the Labor Day weekend. And so that's kind of the latest on that. It's not going to happen this fall. We're going to earmark or encumber those funds so that the project will move forward in the springtime. So that's the latest on that as well.
Okay. Any other items from old business or for new business to go on our future agendas?
One thing, one thing I'm kind of interested in is, I haven't had a chance to talk to you about it, but some kind of maybe thinking about some kind of a splash pad, water, recreation area at one of the parks, kind of little kid version. Just something I'd be interested in talking about at a future meeting to see if there's an area we could do it at or what.
There's a designated area in Williams, no.
White
in
Camp.
White Camp.
White Camp.
Excuse
Okay.
me, brain dead. In White Camp for it.
Okay. When you say designated, do you mean the
It's in the
infrastructure?
planning, it's in the master plan and design
Okay.
for it, and a flat space and everything else for it to
Yeah.
possibly go.
Well,
Yeah.
great. Yeah, maybe,
And the placement of the all-access equipment was done so to be in relationship to where that could be as well.
okay.
It was
Went
part
in.
of the phase like 3 from the presentation from the Hudson Hospital. So it would have been a splash pad. And they were gonna, build that, but I guess they haven't come back.
I know, and I know there's funding questions and whatnot, but it'd be interesting just to keep on our radar, I think, to maybe talk a little bit more about down the road and just see if that would be I think it'd be a great asset for the community, so if we have the infrastructure in place, it'd be nice to keep at least thinking or
Oh, I think it'd really be
conceptualizing or,
used.
I think it'd be, yeah,
It
so.
really would.
I know there's a lot on your plate right now, so not to,
So a couple things with that.
Yeah.
The outdoor rec plan expires in 2020. So we're going to have to update the outdoor rec plan and incorporate, some of the newer parks that are coming online into that.
yeah.
Second thing is when we do our capital improvement planning for 2021 and 2022,
Yeah.
we'll bring forward to the board and prioritize all the projects in the parks, kind of like we did last year, and how we came on Grandview and Burton Park improvements. We'll do the same thing for 2021, 2022, and those are times where we'll have those discussions and possibly include it into capital improvement planning. So,
That'd be great, yeah.
Yeah. That would really be additive.
yep. So,
The only thing I had was I was at a restaurant a week ago Saturday, that from a high second story down to the ground floor, he had one of those fire escape stairways in there.
yeah,
And how much cheaper it was than the engineered one and everything else, and it passed their inspection with no trouble.
just take a picture.
I think we got one.
Good. Send it along.
Yeah.
And a company name, too.
Yeah, I've got that.
Perfect.
Trying to solve the stairway here on
Stairway to
Thursday,
nowhere.
Oh, yeah.
but also getting from the dike down to the water. And a fire escape stairways come pre-engineered, pre-welded, pre-assembled, or designed to be darn near bulletproof. And it was like $6,500 a piece compared to,
Yeah.
a fortune to do it the other way. And that would be nice to get, especially now that the park's getting cleaned out, that you can see through it and
Yeah.
everything else, to
Oh, I agree.
get that done. Won't be long and you'll be making ice.
Right, couple months away.
Yeah, but that being said, would we be time or money ahead to do some temporary fill in there so that they don't have to spend forever trying to build up all the ice? There's places in Burton Field that there's,
Yeah.
if I'm not wrong, at least 8 inches of ice they gotta build to get it
Yeah.
level.
That's a good,
That if we could get Zappa or somebody, or even the city, to take some of our own gravel and spread it out there for, it would save in labor of guys out there doing that.
right, instead of having all the water run off onto
Yeah.
8th Street or 9th Street. Yeah, that's, I'll,
And they did a
Definitely keep that
really
in
nice
mind.
job of striping the Vine Street Park,
yeah.
the sledding hill,
Yep.
for no parking and everything around there. In the last project, that came out really well.
Yep, good.
Motion to adjourn?
Move to adjourn.
Adjourn.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. Thank you.